So this one, I apologize in advance if this video is a little bit depressing, but it is interesting, so stick with me. I recently talked about a little how the government make 500 million Australian dollars profit from speeding fines just in Queensland, not the whole of Australia, and that's profit, not gross revenue. So that's $200 million more than last year. And they recently announced that they're going to spend another $500 million installing more cameras in the next 3 or 4 years. So that's in Queensland if you live here. They have more passive income. That's great for them. Not so much for us though. But there is one issue which is it's kind of common sense, I suppose. It does need to be dealt with at some point, and this is where you come in, and I would like to get your feedback in the comments. We can see this little problem all over the world, but I'm just talking with the numbers for Australia here, but this applies everywhere. $13.7 billion per year is collected through fuel tax, basically. They collect 48 cents out of every litre of petrol that you buy. Currently, petrol is about $2.15 or something like that. So a little bit, a quarter of the money is tax at the minute. And this apparently gets spent on maintaining the roads. Apparently. Before we get into the details though, welcome back to the channel. I'm Ben Alexander and I make videos every single day on EV news. Remember to subscribe for me too, so you can help me grow the channel into something where I can make a real difference. I also do have a Patreon, YouTube memberships, and buy me a coffee. They're $3 a month if you did want to help and support me on there. Otherwise, it's really easy and it's free to just press the like button and subscribe, and that makes a big difference. It makes sense to tax per kilometre driven, I suppose, long term. If you disagree, leave a good comment below so we can all read it, because the issue is they will want to take some money in some format from road users to pay for it. And if they can't do that through petrol or diesel anymore, they have to do it through some other way. At some point in the future, they will inevitably sell less petrol or diesel and start selling more EVs. So they will need the road users in some way to start paying for roads. So the lights, the tarmac, the bridges. Bridges, by the way, incredibly expensive. They have a lifespan and cost a fortune to build. And it's not like a $50,000 hit that the government takes to build a bridge. It's, they don't even last usually for 100 years. So they require huge money to maintain year in, year out. What about the paint on the roads too? So I'm not against paying some money to drive my car on the road, of course not, but it is too early to be charging for it now, I think, at this stage. It's important in the transition whereby we need to be incentivized as a society to buy EVs, to get petrol and diesels off the road sooner rather than later. It's a no-brainer in Australia because we have an abundance of irradiant energy to fuel our electric things. Cars, heaters, air conditioning systems. This is Australia. We have huge amounts of irradiant energy beaming down on a daily basis, even when it's cloudy. And also 80% of the people live on the coast in a city in this country, on a coast where it's windy. So we could probably use wind at some point too. So recently, when I found out about the government already pushing through Parliament the new road cost for EVs, I wasn't overly excited. And okay, we can see at the moment that the government know you're happy to and actually able to pay around 11 to 20 cents per kilometre driven. For most people, depending on what car you have. So this is the issue. They know you're able to pay 10 to 20 cents per kilometre you drive, because you are doing. If you buy an EV, do you honestly think for a second that they will allow you to save huge amounts of money and almost drive for free and only ever have to pay the equivalent of 2 to 3 cents? No, probably not. So before you know it, it will be much more than this per kilometre. I would not be surprised by 5 or 6 cents per kilometre by 2030. That would not surprise me at all. We already saw the Victorian government put up the cost from 2.6 cents to 2.8 cents. which is like 9% or something like that. And that has only been around since July 1st. Not long at all. So my question is to you, and it's going to be a really, really interesting thing to see, is how much do you think, in today's money, wherever you are in the world, do you think is a fair and reasonable contribution to pay per kilometre? So when looking at running costs for a small, cheap petrol car, for example, let's just say 11 cents per kilometre here in Queensland at the minute, maybe 12, petrol's expensive. So we can see that if petrol, hypothetically, in the future didn't change price, so today's money, to drive 200,000 kilometres, which is commonly the life of a lot of cars these days, that would cost you $22,000. And if you pay the Queensland electricity grid for energy here and you don't use any solar to contribute at all, that would mean that an electric car would probably cost you $7,500, something like that. So just consider that. Cheap car, petrol, 22,000. An electric car would be 7.5 or so. And then that would go up another 6,000 if you did that, if you drove 200,000 kilometers and you paid 7,500 in electricity. If you did pay 3 cents per kilometer, that would add $6,000 on top of that for that 200. So when you look at it like that, it's half the cost of a petrol or diesel, so there's less of an incentive, and that's a concern, I think. So in effect, they can literally tell you to pay any amount and you will have no legs to stand on if you don't like it. Nothing at all. So if they say to pay 6 cents per kilometre, you will have to trust that they won't keep going up and going up and going up until you pay the same as petrol. Obviously, I personally have no objection at all to paying 3 cents per kilometre. I wouldn't mind that at all because it's cheap and I do want to contribute to society. I think that we should be fine with an element of that, obviously, but it's a matter of when they introduce this tax and how much they will make you pay and how much do they want you to pay. So please let me know in the comments below, because I know people have all sorts of ideas on this stuff. Some people think you should pay quite a lot. Some people think maybe just like me, 3 cents or something like that. Some people think nothing at all. But if you're talking from the US as well, mention that you're talking about US dollars and cents. This is where it gets doubly interesting, in my opinion. You have to think too about the amount of money you will be saving Australia when you don't give money to tax-dodging fuel companies. So whilst you are paying your 48 cents per litre here for your fuel, you're also giving the rest of that money for your litre of fuel, so another $1.50, to a company that will almost certainly not be paying tax on it, because the norm these days is, of course, around the world, companies like fuel companies don't pay tax. They get away with it. That won't change because it hasn't changed for decades. So how much of your money are we actually now going to be saving, leaving the Australian economy? So can some smart people do me a favour here, work it out for me, because I'm really not an economist, and just put it in the comments. It's currently in court at the moment too. There is a High Court challenge going on whereby it is being said that people having to pay this tax, this extra charge, are effectively being punished for trying to lower their carbon footprint. And in a way, this is right, of course. But in another way, simply by fueling our cars and not buying petrol or diesel is saving the country huge money. But then you could also take this even further if you really wanted to, but at what point do you stop doing this, and say that if you buy an EV, they already cost more money to buy. And if you buy a $60,000 car rather than a $40,000 vehicle that maybe uses petrol and then being prepared to spend $20,000 on it and its life on petrol, then as soon as you bought it, you'd have given a huge amount of extra money to another economy somewhere in the world, depending on where it is. So again, I'm not an expert in these matters at all, but if you have something to say, put it in the comments. Apologies that this video wasn't overly happy or positive, but it is tricky to get videos talking about money correct. And I'm English. Typically, we don't really like to talk about money. If you enjoyed the video, then please click the like button for me so that YouTube know that people are enjoying it, and subscribe for more daily videos about electric vehicles.